Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Monday, November 27th, 2023. This is episode 820 of Living Free in Tennessee, and it's a Monday show, so we have our usual segments. So, Tales from the Prepper Pantry, the live stream schedule, the weekly shopping report from Joe, a frugality tip from Margot, and Operation Independence, followed by a Monday thought. And I thought today we would talk about homegrown gift ideas because every year we sort of go through like, hey, here are some homemade things you can make for gifts. And it's kind of all based in the simpler living of being on a homestead, but you don't have to be in a homestead to give homemade gifts. It can be a fun way to show your affection for your friends, for your family to give gifts. But why would we let giving gifts put us in debt? Why would we let giving gifts put us over the edge? And why not put some thought into gifts that you give and do something handmade rather than feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses and get the latest device? Now, if you like to buy gifts and you have the budget to buy gifts for people and you have the perfect thing for somebody, there's nothing wrong with that. But over the last, 20 years, it seems like there's a bigger and bigger focus on the material side of the gift giving season rather than the more important piece, which are the relationships. So every year we have an episode about homemade gift ideas. This time I'm just taking a slightly different approach. So I've usually done 3 or 4 things and then I tell you like step by step how to do it. Well, okay, you have the internet too, so you can look up step by step if you need more detail than we go into today. I thought we'd approach today more like a brainstorm episode. So if you're in the live stream, do me a favor, like, subscribe, share, all of those things. But also be prepared to maybe give some ideas of things you think would make good homemade gift ideas. And we'll build them into the show. Also, if you have questions or comments, write the word question or comment, colon, all in caps, and then I'll know that you want that included in the show. Before we jump into our first segment today, I do want to talk about our featured event of today's show, which is December 6th through 10th. The Live Free Academy, our friend John Bush over the Live Free Academy, is doing an online health summit. And as in typical Live Free Academy style, the first couple days are free. If you want to head over there to livefree.academy and sign up, you can do so or use the link in the show notes. I'll probably shoot one out in our email next week too. It's sort of the last chance next week to get in to the health summit, but they're really looking at alternative ways to take control of your health so that you don't need the traditional medicine system. And I think that's a pretty cool topic to talk about, food, fitness, different ways of treating things. Of course, if I have a stop sign sticking out of my spleen, totally want to go into the traditional medical system, but sometimes it's nice to try a gentler approach or to getting to the underlying thing that is causing a problem rather than to just mask the symptom, which is a lot of what the like the traditional medical system we have in this country now does. I also want to thank our 2 sponsors of today's show. Our first sponsor is Strong Roots Resources. StrongRootsResources.com is where you can go connect with Carrie Brown, who is really awesome at giving permaculture consults, especially on smaller properties. He'll sit down with you and go over your goals for the property, walk the property, and help you come up with some ways of organizing it so that one thing feeds another, feeds another. The other thing he does is identify wild, edible, and herbal plants on your property, geolocates them, and provides you with a map. You can check out more at strongrootsresources.com. Also want to thank our second show sponsor, and that's Paul Wheaton from Permies.com. That's right. You haven't heard from Paul Wheaton or Permies.com in our sponsorship spot in a while. So Paul Wheaton has some stocking stuffer ideas for you. Speaking of not spending money. Oh, wait, this is spending money. Anyway, they're perfect for the gardener in your life who wants to play cards in the wintertime when it's dark early. And it's the garden gift, the garden permaculture playing cards over at gardener-gift.com. If you use the link in the show notes, I get a little bit of credit for that, but there are 2 for $50, 12 for $140, 100 for $805. So if you want to grab cards, or if like a lot of you in LFTN are interested in the playing cards, it might be worth pairing up and getting that 12 pack, a group of you, rather than the 2 for 50. Like, you triple the money, but you get a lot more than 6, you know, decks. So the more you buy, the less they are per deck. That's all I'm saying. You can like just use the link in the show notes and that'll get you there. Anyway, with that, it's time for our first segment of today's show, which is not Tales from the Prepper Pantry. It's the live stream schedule. I plan to be live right now. And then tomorrow at 12:30, I'm on with John Willis and Toolman Tim Cook. Then Wednesday at 1 p.m., I'm on with AJ. We're going to actually talk about using propane sort of rurally and strategies for doing that for your off-grid property, which is a little bit different of a topic, but I think it'll be a good one. So we will do that Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central. And then Friday, as always, 9:30, we're going to do our Homestead Happenings show. Next up is Tales from the Prepper Pantry. This is where we talk about storing what you use and using what you store, which is a great way to not overspend. It's actually a really good way to stay in budget, is to have a good pantry management system. And it's been a challenge for me to eat from the pantry the last few weeks, 4 weeks, month or so. I mean, it was a challenge when I was on the road, but then I came back and my kitchen's been ripped up. So some strategies I've had in cooking from the pantry with no kitchen is I have pre-made stews ready to go in bags in my freezer. And I pulled 2 of those out this week, and 1 bag of pulled pork that's pre-cooked. And that's, like, having those things in your pantry is a great way to not order takeout or run to the restaurant or whatever when you're in a time like I am right now, where the kitchen's ripped up. Now, it's a really good thing that my kitchen's ripped up, because it's going to be put together way better when it's done, and the end is near. But that also means, especially at this time when it's coffee gift roasting season, and I only get a few hours a day that I can put on that project. And then if I use some of that to cook, like, I'm looking more for the speedy meals. Plus, I never know if my oven's going to be available or not. And we are getting into the point where we do the floors, where that's like almost everything's moved out of that part of my house. Like, the rest of everything comes out of my house next. And I end up with days without access, because where we're doing the floors, like, both doors to the outside are in this section of the house. So whatever's inside stays inside, and whatever's outside stays outside, while the floor that I'm putting in dries, because I'm not putting in the kind of floor like carpeting where you could just plop some carpeting down and do that. So I've really been thinking about, like, what can I do in advance to make sure I'm able to cook in this camper, or down at Tactical's cabin, or on the Blackstone outside. Like, what can I do? And 2 things came to mind. One is the pre-made stews are great in the freezer. I pulled out a chicken because I can rotisserie cook that. I have a rotisserie over at base camp I can bring over here if I want to, and I can cook that without having to have my oven. The pulled pork is just reheat. And then I also grabbed the last bag of venison shins, which, if you know what venison shins are, they were labeled by Mama Sauce when she was just cutting the deer up, because I was out of town, because like 2 years ago we got a deer. I guess it was 2 years ago. It's almost 2 years old. We got a deer while I was out of town, and she just started like labeling it however, and I knew what she meant by deer shins, but I found the last bag of deer shins, and I thought, well, I'll throw that in the crock pot, because I can cook really easily in the crock pot, and add some onions and whatnot. I also have an outdoor fridge that I usually have shut down by this time of year, because it's getting cold at night, and I don't want it to get too cold and then break the fridge, which is not designed to get too cold. But I am using that for my primary refrigerator right now. So, because pretty soon it will be the only fridge I can get to. My other fridge will actually be outside, but I plan to have it unplugged, because I really don't want to risk breaking the new fridge when we get, down into the freezing temperatures, which we have been doing this week. cow and a half is coming in, and I just put a half cow in the freezer. So that's 2 full cows going into the freezer. I'm going to end up using my commercial ice cream freezer for that during this transition time. And I'm not sure when they're coming, but it's always the most inconvenient time possible. So we're getting ready for that. And then I'm outfitting the camper to, like, I've been living in this camper that I'm streaming from right now for like since October 30th. And I knew I would be in here at least a month. Um, it looks like I'll be in here in another week or two, but the next 7 days or so, starting Saturday, because I thought I was going to start Thursday with this, but I'm probably starting Saturday with this. I like legit I can't reach the shower in my house. I can't reach anything. So I'll be using this camper fully, except for the water systems. I will shower at somebody else's house, just because I don't want to, like, with it freezing outside, I don't want to put water in the pipes that are all nice and empty because they've been blown out with a compressor. So I've been thinking about how to outfit this kitchen for that time, and definitely bringing in a crock pot, bringing in the sous vide, and I don't have a cutting board in here or a knife. So getting that all done so that I can cook in here, and then I'll have my usual pots and pans that are in the outside covered area right now, and we'll see how it goes. It's actually kind of nice to live in the camper this long because I have a better idea of how to outfit it when we turn it into the glamper, and then I know what I want in here for trips. Like, I'm not getting 2 of everything at the moment. I'm just sort of bringing my stuff in here because there's no point in shopping, but I'm keeping track of what, like, I really need, because when you think about outfitting a camper, it's sort of like, what's the minimum I can do? What things do I have that can serve multiple purposes and that sort of thing? So it'll be great. Beth says, you can do this. I know. I'm going to do it. It'll be fine. I'm actually very thankful I have electricity in here because it's freaking cold. That being said, the wood stove is going back in tonight to my house. So that's kind of exciting. And I'm also keeping pantry resupply at a minimum due to the renovations, just because I don't want to have to stack up more stuff here. And like where I would usually store items that I'm rotating through my camper, I mean, like my pantry is it's being taken up with my actual stuff. And I think I talked about this Friday, like, it's kind of an opportunity to, when I unpack those boxes, decide, do I really want this back inside the house? So there's going to be some soul searching. I'm going to really slowly move back in rather than try to get it all done at once, for that reason, that, like, do I really need this thing or do I really not need this thing? So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. Our next segment is the weekly shopping report from Joe. And he was out when Black Friday deals were on. And he said he didn't notice a lot of people. I went out on Sunday to the stores. I needed to go to Lowe's, and then I hit Sam's Club for, speaking of resupply, it was time for the toilet paper and the paper towel resupply cube. I was trying to get through the construction project without having to resupply those, but I don't like to get low on those things. So I hit Sam's Club, and it was, there were people there, but it wasn't the kind of nuts that I have had for a long time. But so it was kind of light on the traffic, which was kind of interesting. So Dollar Tree was first, although we found parking easily enough. They were busy to have 3 lines open, which is rare. I saw at least one person stocking shelves. One of the food coolers in the back appears to have croaked. It was empty and 66 on its display, but all the others were 3/4 full. The drink coolers were in good shape too, except for one making a bad rattling noise intermittently as it tried to start. Home Depot was next. Ryobi has a new line of USB charge tools, and we packed up a rotating brush on the spur of the moment. The new batteries are not compatible with their old low voltage ones. They have USB-C ports on them. Aldi was last. We found everything we wanted. Only mask in sight the whole trip was the woman taking care of her mom with cancer, and she'd been wearing it without the wearing it. She'd be wearing it no matter what. Staple prices were milk $3.02, eggs $1.24, heavy cream $4.69, orange juice $3.29, butter $3.49, potatoes $3.49, bacon $4.49. sugar 309, and 80% lean ground beef was 449. So the only thing that went up was butter. Oh, butter and eggs went up a little bit. Um, I went to Aldi on Sunday just to get some salad makings because I'm not growing lettuce at home right now. Guilty look. And I went to the heavy cream section and they were out. And you know what? Almost every Sunday after Thanksgiving, they're out of heavy whipping cream. So hopefully they'll get a new delivery this whatever Monday or Tuesday, whenever they get their stuff in. A gallon of untainted ethanol-free gasoline remains at $3.89.9. Our next segment is the frugality tip from Margot. And here's what Margot has to say. This one's actually really it's synchronous with me cooking in the camper I'm staying in because it's sort of the same approach. So she says you can get yourself or a friend prepared for an upcoming surgery, life event, or just a day when you don't want to think about what's for dinner by making crockpot meals. Chop veggies and add seasonings in a bag in the freezer, and then take out the meat the day before and add the frozen veggies with seasonings to the crock pot. I like to freeze bone broth in ice cube trays and throw a couple in the crock pot as well. So add them, a bag of veggies, and the meat for a quick, easy, ready to go meal. Saves you from ordering takeout, and it saves you some time. So I do this, only I have to admit that I will throw the meat in the crock pot frozen if I haven't thought about it the day before. So you don't necessarily have to take the meat out the day before. It is like a better quality experience if you've defrosted the meat first, but ultimately the meat defrosts in the crock pot if you do it from frozen. And sometimes that's just, you got to do what you got to do. Man, I made a really cool, so we did cube steak on Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, and my intention was not to have leftovers, but the redneck didn't eat as much of the cube steak as he usually does. I'm not sure why. And so 2 days ago, I had leftover mashed potatoes, I had peas, I had cube steak, I had leftover mushroom gravy from Thanksgiving, and I put all those things together with some cheese and made, in air quotes, shepherd's pie. I even had like a leftover squash saute, like threw it all in, baked it as a casserole. It was really good. So cube steak cubed makes great quote unquote shepherd's pie knockoff. And sometimes when you just have all those things in your fridge, you just go for it. How many of you are on the social groups? Are you guys on like Telegram and MeWe and the Facebook group? Because there's been some chatter going on in those groups and people having great conversations, helping each other strategize, like how to can bone broth came up this weekend, not surprisingly, and a whole bunch of other stuff. If you're not, you might want to check them out. Just for Telegram, go t.me/LFTN group. For MeWe, go to MeWe, look for Living Free in Tennessee. And on Facebook, we are the Living Free in Tennessee coffee group. The Facebook group is not as active as others, and I think that's because about 3 years ago, I threw a fit and said, let's get off the normal social media and just make ourselves a space somewhere else. So most of our community members who are active are on Telegram and MeWe. That said, if you want to make the Facebook group active, you got to go there and talk, and then I will help support you through that. Our last segment before the main topic of today's show is Operation Independence. This is where I talk about two things. One, building local ongoing revenue into our lives, and two, finding ways to reduce outgoing money. And here's why. It's not just to be a frugal homesteader, guys. It's because when you don't spend money on a thing, you don't have to earn 30% more than the money you spent on the thing, pay taxes on it, and then get the thing. Now, I'm not anti-thing, but to the extent I can avoid paying taxes, that's awesome. And every time I don't have to pay for something, then and I still get the benefit of it. It's like I printed 30% money, and that's kind of fun. So we started it as a game here, like tracking how much money we put in our independence fund. That's why we call it Operation Independence, which is just a fictional game. Like, it's a fictional fund of stuff. So when I chop wood, I didn't have to buy the wood. So then I didn't have to earn the money to pay the guy. So if I would have paid $70 to the guy, I would have had to earn $100 to pay $70 to the guy. And well, two things about this. When you start thinking this way and you teach your kids to think this way, it's a very stark reminder of how much tax we actually pay. It's absurd how much of our income goes out on tax, or our value that we're creating goes out in taxes. It's offensive how much of that goes out in taxes, but also it makes you rethink value. So sometimes it does make sense to pay a guy because it saves you a lot of time. Or you hate doing the thing and you shouldn't do too many things you hate. But sometimes it's kind of fun to not have to pay a guy or not have to pay for the thing. And this week you can take advantage of cyber deals that are actual cyber deals. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, some cyber deals or Black Friday deals, I think the Black Friday deals are basically done, were advertised as deals and were the same darn price as they were the week before. Knowing the difference requires price awareness. And this is where keeping track of some primary things that you're interested in over time is really helpful. So, like, I've been wanting a sofa for my living room for a while. I've been watching the sofa market for 6 months. I have an idea of the various different types of sofa, new and used, that I could get. I never bought one because I didn't want to order a sofa before there was a living room to put it in. And my living room is ripped up right now. So I just kept an eye on it. Well, today I saw a pretty good deal on a sofa I've been watching for a while, and it looks like it'll arrive just after the living room's done or right as it's being finished. So the timing's right. And so I spent about $400 less on the sofa than I would have spent on the sofa. And that adds $400 to my independence fund. That's $400 I didn't have to earn. So that's like $550 I didn't have to earn on in order to pay for that difference. I just thought I'd bring it up because it does require pricing awareness, but you can get like 99 cents a pound turkey right now. And I'm sure somewhere else it's cheaper. I don't buy turkey from the store, but I look at the prices of turkey at the store out of curiosity because I have become aware I need to be more in touch with grocery prices in order to share with y'all ways to save money by cooking from scratch. And that some things can make a big difference and other things don't make that big of a difference. And in order to do that, turkey is one of the things I've been pricing. So it's like usually $3 a pound or so. Sometimes you can get it for $2 a pound. Right now it's 99 cents a pound, and I have seen it go as low as 50 cents a pound. Just at different grocery stores. I only go to a couple there. I only pop into a couple places when it makes sense. Wayfair has stuff for 80% off right now. Like, there's just a lot of deals you can get. And of course, Hollow Roast does free gift wrapping if you order your Hollow Roast gifts this week through Friday. But lots of different ways that you can save money. So just look at the things that are already something you plan to buy. And if you are price aware, like I would spend today, Cyber Monday, checking that out and just see if there's anything out there that makes sense. And if there's not, it'd take you 10 minutes to look at that, and then you're done. We are ready for the main topic of today's show, which is the real reason you came here: homegrown gift ideas. I think one of my favorite parts of being a homesteader is just by existing and just by making my home productive, I end up with really great gift options that are of the handmade variety, in like by just doing what I do throughout the year. But then we get to this time of year and I think, like, what's this year's gift going to look like to friends? At the same time, I have been putting more money than usual into the remodel of my house, so things are, the budget is tight right now because the money's going into construction materials and paying people to help me when I need help and that sort of thing. And my sister, interestingly enough, is in a similar boat. Like, they have their own renovation situation going on. And this year, for the first time in probably over a decade, maybe a decade and a half, I am leaving the hauler for Christmas and going to be with family out on Christmas. And I haven't been able to do that for a really long time. I think it's literally been since 2008. I could be wrong. There may have been one other time in there. So that's kind of a big deal. And that means we can give each other gifts in person for the first time in like a decade and a half. And yet the budget is tight. And I was talking with mom. I was like, what are we doing about gifts? Like, are we doing a price cap? Are we doing a Secret Santa rotation? Are we doing no gifts? What are we doing? And we sort of came to, um, I don't know if it's decided yet or not, but we sort of came to, like, my nieces, of course, I'm going to give them gifts because they're kids, and kids get like gifts no matter what. We came to maybe the adults don't do gifts and the time invested is the gift. And I was like, I like that idea this year. Like, I like getting gifts and I like giving gifts, but I would never want somebody to financially burden themselves for the sake of a gift. And I would never do that to myself. And there was a time where I would have, because it was expected that you give people gifts. And I needed to reframe my own thinking in that regard to give what I am able to give, and sometimes not give a gift, even though somebody gives me a gift. And if I give somebody a gift and they don't give me a gift, it's okay, because who knows where they're coming from, right? Yeah, Hogs14 says a gift for me is just being with family, right? So the time invested is the most important. In fact, what I'm giving my nieces is more an experience than a thing. But I'm not going to say what it is in case one of them like randomly finds my podcast and listens to it. So all of that kind of made me think, well, let's have a brainstorm about some homegrown gifts ideas that we can do. And the first one I got was from Janet. Like, she popped up with easy zipper pouches for people with a sewing machine. Everyone can use these, and they come in 3 sizes. So there's an idea. When you start looking at what you can do homegrown wise, it will be a little different every year based on your interests, your skills, and what has come off the homestead. If you're in the city, though, you could adapt these ideas. It costs a little bit of money to buy the things if you're not growing the things, but I think it's actually kind of nice. And the other thing about gifting that as I get older and have more and more stuff in my house, um, sure, there are things I would like to add to my house, but there are also things that it's like I don't need another thing, but consumables are awesome. So Amy, who must know how to crochet, says crocheted hot pads, scarves, and headbands. Exactly. Janet was here last April, and I ended up with a bunch of hand knit washcloths, which I love. Like, those are great. Those make a great gift. It's a thoughtful gift. It's taken some time and it has a use, and they're awesome. So my first idea when I sat down was, so I sat down and I thought, okay, I always am like all the girly stuff because I sort of think about it from my perspective. But I was like, well, what would be something that would be a little less girly for a dude to do? And it doesn't necessarily have to be done by a dude, but it can. It's actually something I could do, but make a custom cutting board. And to do this, get some really nice wood. I don't mean the end cut kinds that some of our craftsmen do. Like, if you have those skills, definitely those make great gifts, like little cutting boards. But you can take a nice piece of wood and shape it however you want, and find a food safe stain and seal it up with some mineral oil or something, and that makes a beautiful gift. It's, if you have a router, you can round the edges. If you have a jigsaw, you can cut it into the shape of a chicken. that is something that you could spend an afternoon doing and sand it up real smooth, and it makes a nice gift, and it's something that somebody will use until it wears out, and it's something I think they'll treasure depending, like, whatever your signature shape is. Like, I can think of, if your signature shape's a heart, you could do little heart-shaped ones, or if your signature shape is a coffee cup, you could do a little coffee cup-shaped one. Like, you can do all sorts of different things, and all it requires is some wood and some time and some tools. So that's one idea. Amy says scrap wood birdhouses. Exactly. You can totally do scrap wood birdhouses or other things. Birdhouses are great. I have a birdhouse. It's not in here, is it? Oh, I thought I put it in here. It might be up there actually. I think it's up in the cabinet up there because I took the birdhouse that um, Porterhouse and Teal made for me out of my house so it wouldn't get all messed up, and I put it in here so that it also would not get too cold. I didn't want to go through um, a lot of temperature changes, but they make birdhouses and they're custom painted. I have one that's like hollow roast and LFTN. It's really awesome. So that's another one. Amy says repotting aloe babies. See, yeah, you can give people little aloe vera plants with a ribbon around it in little pots. That would be a really cool thing. Janet says my neighbor's 9-year-old made me a paracord bracelet that I keep on my gear shift on the car. Another idea I had, and this one I have episodes on how to do these. Cookies in jar recipes. Okay. So I have a link in the show notes to Christmas macaroon mix because it was pretty colors. And you just do layers of ingredients, of dry ingredients, and you have an instruction card that you print up nicely with it, put a ribbon around that with the lid on, and it's like it's a pre-cooked homemade batch of cookies that are not pre-cooked. It's an uncooked one. So they can wait till later in the year and then do cookies out of that. So that makes a really great gift. Another one is like soup in a jar. It's the same concept, but instead of sweets and cookies, it's more of a soup. I found a recipe called country soup in a jar that doesn't have a lot of lentils. So what you want to do here is think about just add meat if you want to go meat soup, or you can do a lentil soup. Like different colors of legumes are interesting stripes in the jar. And then if you are a homesteader growing stuff, you can dry the onions and the garlic you grew. You can dry green onions. That makes a really nice, pretty layer. You can put the spices in there. And if you can homemade bone broth and it goes with this, you can do a double, like a 2-for, like your home canned bone broth and the soup mix and mix it, and it's pretty. So all sorts of things you can eat in a jar are wonderful. And like sort of the third, so then I think about the third thing are smaller jars of your dried herbs. Like I've been given some really awesome chili pepper flakes in the past that I absolutely love. Use the whole jar in the year, and it was from somebody who had a really good chili year. And I believe they smoked the chilies and then ground them up and put them in a jar, all nice and pretty, as a gift. And what's that cost you? It costs you a mason jar. Mason jars are not expensive. And then some time that you put into drying your herbs. Well, that those are going to be higher quality herbs than anybody can buy in the store. So it's better quality, it's handmade, and it's not money out of your pocket for the herbs, but it's a thoughtful gift. So I love those ideas. So those are all my that was sort of a set of mason jar ideas. Home canned goods in a basket. So we get to this time of year and you have pickled things and you have canned things and you have all of these things that you've preserved for the year, and you can just make an abundance basket for some friends. If you're just going to go over and they're not far from you, you're like hand delivering it. You could even add like a roast from, like, we raise sheep, a roast from the sheep into this basket of abundance, and just be like, hey, there's something in there that needs to go in the freezer. You can get baskets at secondhand stores for decent prices and make it prettier. You could make the basket. I know how to make baskets. So there's lots of different ways to present it. You can just give it to them in a box that's wrapped in wrapping paper to make it look pretty. There's lots of different ways to present it, but people who like real food love it when you give them canned goods. People who don't like real food are probably not the people you should be targeting with your homemade gifts anyway. So there you go. Okay, sewing. I see Janet is here. Um, I can always use an apron, and I assume other people who cook their food can too. So home home sewn aprons with some pretty fabrics make a great gift, and you can do like matching napkins. Matching fabric napkins are really nice. Lots of different patterns you can grab for these things. I personally like an apron with a pocket because I'm always shoving a cooking spoon or utensil down there, or my thermometer. So that one takes a little bit more time, but you can cut out 10 identical ones and sort of start your assembly line and go for it. All you got to do there is buy the fabric, and sometimes you can get some pretty good deals on fabrics at garage sales, on Facebook Marketplace, or just buy the fabric at Joann's if they're still in business in your area, which they aren't in mine. But I think they might be going out of business, going out of business. I don't know. I just know they closed a lot of locations recently in the last couple years. So I don't think it's funny how this resurgence of homesteading and homegrown stuff has caused some industries to really boom, and yet at the same time things like Joann's that you would think would benefit from people going back to more of the heritage skills are not doing that great necessarily. So I guess fewer people are buying fabric than we think. Fabric's kind of fun. Okay, here's a good one. Shapely suet treats. What is suet? Suet is fat mixed with grains that you can shape into shapes and like hang outside or put outside for birds to eat. So you can use different colored seeds. You can do all sorts of things. And basically what you need is a palm oil free shortening, some nut butter. Don't get a sugar-free version that has like erythritol or something. So that's important when you're feeding animals, not to put sugar fakes in there. Um, bird seed, quick oats, cornmeal, and then a mold. You can put them in ice cube trays and have like bags of those or whatever. But what you do is you mix all those things together and then put them into the mold, freeze it for about an hour, and pull them out of the mold. Um, that's something I don't mail around, guys, because if that gets warm, it melts. So that's something that you're going to give to somebody and say, just keep this in your fridge or freezer, and then explain to them how to use it as a bird feeder. They make actual holders to put the suet in that you can hang outside. So you may look at how those are made and see, can I make something out of some twigs and some twine that would hang and make a really cool feeder? That just requires walking outside or going to the park and finding some supplies and going for it, right? Or you can buy some supplies at the store. Last year I got wood shavings and I got hot glue and I made like little curly Q Christmas tree ornaments out of the wood shavings, and those were really cool. In fact, they'll be on my tree this year, I'm sure, as long as I didn't ruin them, and as long as I can find where I stored them, because I can't really find anything right now. It's actually a running joke at my house. I'm like, I'm not allowed to really buy anything because I don't know if I have it or not, and I don't know where to look for things necessarily when I really need something. And then I go find it and I'm like, this blender, because the blender is on that list. This blender is something I definitely want around. It was actually pretty easy to find once I went for it as well. Another idea is just so we talked about the jar cookies, right? There is nothing wrong with making, you know, 4 to 5 batches of cookies and making little plates or tins of cookies and giving them to people. Quick breads are another thing, like zucchini bread, banana bread, chocolate quick loaf, like whatever. Those are all great. Like people like baked goods. Pies, pie crust, like you could do pie crust and get the disposable tins at the Dollar Tree and just give people pre-made pie crust for their freezer. People like me who don't love making pie crusts would love that gift, especially if it was, you know. Okay, so yes, I'm keto, but occasionally I eat a pie, and when I eat a pie, I just have a pie crust. I have friends who do gluten-free pie crusts. I just eat the wheat. Um, and I don't do it very often. And the best way for me to have a pie is at an event so I can have a piece of pie and then the rest of the pie is gone. It's very important to me that pie does not linger at my house. But then in that case, tarts are fine too. So um, any treat, any baked treat is great. Or, melted chocolate with oatmeal, like those little like oatmeal cluster things, those are delicious. You can do a lot of fun stuff and have a really beautiful presentation. I had some friends who were known for their Christmas cookie. She would spend 2 weeks just every day baking and, have tables full of cookies to put together into these cookie packages they made. And they give out like 50 or 100, like a lot of cookie packages, and you'd have a lot of variety. And one year they gave them to somebody who was like, "Oh, it's only cookies." And she just about well, that person never got cookies from her again, first of all. Like, they were not grateful. And she was like, "I have a lot of money in the ingredients for cookies by the time I get through all of these. Like, it's not an insignificant time effort, and it's not, I mean, butter is butter is butter. Somebody here said they're paying $2.99 a pound right now instead of 4. But, like, it adds up over time. And it's anytime somebody gives you a gift like that, don't be ungrateful. Amy's like, "Genius. I have 200 plus tromboncino squash. Quick bread it is." Yeah, so squash breads would be great. You could also do tromboncino pie, like a sweet potato pie sort of thing, only use the tromboncino squash instead of, like, I guess pumpkin pie is the closest analog. So that would be cool. No voice? What do you mean no voice? Hopefully. What do you mean no voice? You can't hear me? Please tell me you can hear me. Did something change on my computer? Because I'm going to double check my settings because I had an audio problem. Nope. It says I'm still making noise. So not sure what happened there. I did start the episode with my mic on mute earlier. So maybe, I don't know. If you go back to the beginning, you will hear me not making any noise at all. But yeah, so if you have 200 tromboncino, you have squash abundance. There's no way you're eating 200 squash by yourself. And making some pies, making some quick breads would make a wonderful, wonderful gift. It's so funny when I record the podcast in the camper because I can hear all the outside noises and I hear the backup siren is like coming up my driveway, and I really wonder what sort of large delivery has just arrived because I'm not expecting a large delivery today. And Tactical's not here. So, hey, Ryan, do you happen to have Tactical's number? Can you like text him and say there's some sort of weird delivery here? They're coming all the way up the driveway right now. So you're going to hear the thing too. Okay. Next, this one I talked about uh a few months ago, or not years ago, and it's nice to add if you grow like fragrant herbs. Some fragrant herbs that would be good for this would be peppermint or lavender, rosemary, all sorts of different things that you can do. And they would include, like, any of these things are nice. You can sew a little bag, or if you're not a sewer, you can buy a bag, but sew a little bag and put a sachet together to make, like clothing drawers smell good and other things. I think those are really cool. I am like super curious though. Do you guys mind if I peek outside real quick? Because I got honked at too, and there's nobody here. Hi, I'm on a live stream right now. Do you need a signature? Okay. Quick. Like, they are waiting and hearing me right now. Yeah. Thank you. Have a great day. Great. I love your. Sorry, that's the beep. Oh, that's okay. There he is. Apparently, we had to sign for something. Ha ha ha. Okay. That's going to be a fun edit. So let me just do 5 seconds of silence. Okay, good. I know I'm going to actually edit that out of the audio podcast. So sachets are a great thing. I cannot believe it's like the 1 hour a day, right? But I didn't know anything was arriving today. It was not heavy either. It's probably the roaster part I've been waiting for my other roaster, would be my guess. Okay, this next one will happen if you've been listening to my show all year. And when I say go out and gather this thing on featured forage and you go out and gather that thing and you dry it, you can do this. So right now, I have bee balm, I have peppermint, I have blackberry leaves, I have chocolate mint, I have lemon balm. I have other things like sage and stuff, but they won't really fit for this. Oh, I have rose petals. Um, I don't know what else I have, but that's like a good. I have echinacea. Uh, do you know where I'm going with this? Please tell me in the comments that you know where I'm going with this one. So I have all of these things that I have collected. I have dehydrated them. I have put them in mason jars and sealed them off. Guess what I can do with them now? Any guesses? I didn't do chamomile this year. Like I grew chamomile, but I didn't really collect chamomile. Teas, that's right. Pack Rat gets it first. Yeah, so you can make your own tea mixes. And if as part of homestead living, you are doing these sort of seasonal things where you gather the things that can be mixed together, then you can do tea mixes. Potpourri, yes, you could do that too. It's really nice to add some essential oils to potpourri, like a cinnamon soaked pine cone or something. That's a great build on this idea. But making herbal teas and your own blends is a great thing you can do. And again, you can put it in a mason jar. You can do little. You can get like tea bags that you fill, or you can pair like a bag of tea with a little like tea infuser. All sorts of different ways you can go with that one. And it just requires sort of a diligent all year round sort of thing. Paul says permaculture playing cards. Yes, Paul, we actually promoted those at the beginning of the show as a great stocking stuffer because we're talking about gift giving season here. But homemade tea blends are an unusual thing. Most people don't give homemade tea blends. And if you are collecting from your land all year long and drying, then great. If you are going to start collecting now, it's probably too late in a lot of climates, but you never know. Like my lemon balm was still lemon balming this weekend. Now, it got pretty cold last night, so they may not be there now, but up until then I could. And my chocolate mint was still harvestable yesterday, and I still have rosemary. You can put rosemary in tea, by the way. It's actually fairly delicious. Paul Wheaton says he made the permaculture playing cards by hand. And then Jen Ventures is so this is another one. Salves are nice to make with many of those items too. Yeah, so like the comfrey salve, Yep. Okay, so on my rock wall, it's sort of a heat sink because so it's been frozen, but at the base of this wall, the comfrey that's there has not died back due to the freezing yet. So I could go get comfrey right now and make comfrey salve. And in fact, I happen to have cow bones to cook down. As a result of that, I am going to get tallow, and I could filter the tallow and use the tallow to extract the comfrey for a tallow based comfrey salve. And I'll tell you this, I've been using Homestead Glamour's body butters for years to she did a tallow based body butter, which I absolutely love. It like absorbs into the skin so much faster, and it's just a nicer product. And for me, that would be kind of a cool one because it's a little bit labor intensive, but I could still get that done in time, like well before any Christmas gathering we're going to have here, especially since I don't have a floor yet. And so the gathering has to happen after the floor goes back in my house, right? So You see how when you start brainstorming these things in a group, it goes from I had the idea of tea to salves and potpourri and all sorts of different things you can do. So, applesauce. Applesauce is delicious. Okay, here's one. If you have a freeze dryer, freeze dried anything. Pretty much freeze dried anything works great, especially in our homestead network. Like, one of the best things about having a freeze dryer in my life is that when I travel, because I have specific dietary needs that I have defined for myself, I can take food that I grew here and make it into something and freeze dry it. And I have meals that are from my homestead and they are nutritionally balanced the way I'm used to eating. And that's super nice because I just add water and then I eat my stuff and it's done. Um, a lot of people like freeze dried candies, not gonna lie. Like one year I did freeze dried Skittles in my niece's stockings and they absolutely love that. So that requires buying something, but it's a handmade gift nonetheless. So if you get freeze dried stuff, it's a great idea to do that. Paul says, somebody gave me prunes, best prunes I've ever tasted. And this year I received a mountain of plum pits that are the source of those prunes. So there you go. You can give people prunes. Prunes are delicious if you get good prunes. Um, and then, if you're like, Nicole, this is great, but I haven't really collected my herbs this year or canned anything, and I don't feel like making simple, shapely suet treats for birds. Are you good at doing something? Because another thing that can make a pretty cool gift are what I call service coupons. So one year I can't remember if it was for a birthday present or a Christmas present. I gave a friend a half day of my time reorganizing their pantry and kitchen. And Mama Sauce and I came in and we completely took everything out of every place in the kitchen and pantry, sorted it, reorganized it, put it back together. And part of what we were doing, this person had recently transitioned from having more of a traditional American diet to a ketovore diet. So mostly meats and vegetables, but not carbs. And they had walked away from most seed oils. And they had a pantry with, flour, pancake mix, seed oils, all sorts of stuff that they didn't no longer ate pasta, rice, like all of those things. And so we sorted out all of that to make space for the things that they did eat. And then because what was happening is they couldn't put things away in their pantry because it was full. And so then things were on the counter that they ate. And it was like, you have to move one thing to move another thing. And that was just a service I could provide because I'm particularly good, especially when Mom and Sauce and I get together, we're particularly good at helping people with the pantry management piece or sort of kitchen organization. It's just because we have done it for a long time. And it was a service I could offer that year. So, what are you good at? Like, are you a good writer? Could you write some promotional emails for somebody and give them some time that way? Are you a tech guy? You could do tech stuff. Do you do permaculture consults? You could do a permaculture consult. Like anything like that can be a real gift or experiences. And, just having a picnic out here at the Holler Homestead would be awesome for the right person, right? So those are all um those are all different ways that you can find gifts that are homegrown, that are meaningful, that don't require you to go into debt spending money on them. Or, even if you do spend money on supplies for it, it's more meaningful. Paul Wheaton says, make a log chair. This sounds like he's going to get us BBs here. Yeah, make a log chair. Go out into the woods, find some logs. So I showed this end table to Tactical the other day that's like a stump with, like, how stumps have the root sort of come up and they're all different shapes. And somebody had taken a stump and, cleaned it up, flatten the bottom, flatten the top, and then put a second piece of wood on the top to make a bigger like end table thing. And I'm literally in the middle of deciding like, what am I going to put in my living room when I have a living room again? And I looked at that. It was on Amazon of all places. And I showed it to him and I'm like, that is beautiful. And it's only $160. And I was like, actually, though, we probably could go find a stump out in the woods and clean it all up and shine it all up and make it flat. And then I could just do it from here. And so I think one of my projects in the next year is going to be to make an end table or two for my living room out of like a cedar stump. And the only challenge I have is obtaining the cedar stump without a tractor. So I got to get it out. So we'll see. That could make some good video, guys. So we'll see how that goes. And, John Willis is right. I need a skid steer or a tractor. It would be really nice to have one of those here. But anyway, those are all my ideas. Homestead Consultant says tallow and lard base are far superior and you don't need beeswax. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I've always made my salves out of coconut oil and beeswax. And this year, just part of my natural progression on how I eat is I don't use vegetable or seed oils anymore because by nature of cooking the whole animal and extracting the bone broth and getting the lard and the fat and all those things out of them, I tend to have a lot of animal fats around. Like I made turkey bone broth. There will be a short video on TikTok about this. I made the bone broth from the turkey like you do after Thanksgiving. And it came out today of the slow cooker, went into the fridge, and I'm going to end up with this coating of fat on the top when I refrigerate it. And I'm going to take that off and I'm going to package that separately into smaller amounts that I can cook with. And then I will can the bone broth and I will freeze the fat from bone broth. And that's what I end up using as the base for the sautés I do, for anything like when I'm frying eggs or something. That's what I use. As a result of moving to that, I basically never need olive oil for cooking or any other oil for cooking, avocado oil or whatever else I used to use. It was just a natural progression that happened as I moved into eating whole animals and using as much of the animal as I can. I think it's healthier, and I don't end up storing all of these going rancid oils around because oils go rancid and it's disgusting. So how's about some seeds? All right. I have got 140. I have a tomato variety I've been collecting the seeds from for about 10 years now, that when I got it from the farmer's market, he had 140 years of history on it. He's gone now. And we call them 140-year Timmies. And they're delicious. Like, I've brought them all over the country. If one is ripe and I'm leaving town, I fly with the tomato. But yeah, I those would make great gifts. And I love getting heritage seeds from people. And especially if you know a gardener in your life, you could pair it with the playing cards, right, Paul? It's another stocking stuffer you can do. Like, here's the Trombonchino seeds I had, or the python beans or something interesting. It's always kind of fun to do that. And the more people you give your seeds to, the more people you can get your seeds from if you have a failed year. That's right. Sunchokes. Paul is full of gift ideas. Sunchokes are hilarious. So Jerusalem artichokes. I saw one of our local people who has a nursery post Jerusalem artichoke like tubers for sale, and I'm like, yep, it's that time of year. And I remember the first year I lived in Tennessee, and I planted sunchokes in my garden, something I've never recovered from in that part of my garden. And it's just the sunchoke spot now. And I was so excited when they bloomed because they're so pretty. And I look around, all around me, because I'm in a valley. So I'm like in a teacup. I am surrounded by Jerusalem artichokes. And it turned out I didn't need to buy the tubers because they grow wild here everywhere. But they don't grow wild everywhere. And there are different like varietals that will give you bigger tubers that you can plant. But I really like the sunchoke flavor. They make really good, a really good like instead of mashed potatoes, a mashed potato alternative with butter and garlic. Very good. K-Bonk says, I hope you have a power washer for the stump. Yes, I do. And that's a great idea. I didn't even know how I was going to clean it up. I just saw a thing that I liked, and I realized that I have stumps right out my backyard, and I have some nice cedar stumps that would make a pretty table without any stain. So, anyway, that's just where I am. Uh, Beth says, my son just bought a house. It has a raised bed that I'm going to revitalize and plant. Merry Christmas. Exactly. That's a great gift. I love that idea. Yes. Pack Rat says 140-year Timmy seeds are something that are hard to find at the local big box store. Nobody else will have them. Yeah, you know what? I give those away too all the time. It's like, here's your birthday present. It's a package of seeds. How about a small plant plot with some chives growing in it? Instant indoor garden. Yeah. You guys, you see how it is. Like, the more we talk about this, the better we are. Anyway, we're getting towards the end of today's podcast. If you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in two ways. One, get your coffee at Holler Roast. I would like to mention that if you want to buy Holler Roast as a gift, you can go there right now and buy it. And if you add gift wrapping, it's free right now. Usually that's $5. So it gets gift wrap. I also do a handwritten card. You'll put your custom message to the person in the grocery cart. So that's our cyber deal. It's good through Friday. And if you don't want it to ship until after December 13th, you can do that too. There's just a drop down that says ship this after December 13th. So if you want it closer to Christmas, but you want to get the deal, I recommend you head over to hollerroast.com right now. The other way you can support the show is by becoming a member. Head over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. With that, guys, go out and make it a great week.